Welcome. Today we're embarking on a deep dive that's going to challenge, well, absolutely everything we thought we knew about human history. We are digging into some serious historical enigmas, things that completely defy modern logic and totally rewrite the timelines of our ancestors.
I want you to think about this question. Are these all just mistakes of history, or a truth humanity isn't ready to understand? That really hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? That's the exact tension we're facing today. We've got this incredible modern technology, and yet some of the greatest artifacts from our past remain completely unexplainable. It literally fills you with a sense of awe.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Here is our roadmap for today's explainer. 1. Unsolved codes and messages. 2. Impossible ancient constructions. 3. Clash of science and mystery. 4. Tech ahead of time. And 5. The limits of our understanding.
Starting us off, Chapter 1, Unsolved Codes and Messages.
To really wrap our heads around this, we have to talk about the Voynich Manuscript. It's an incredibly strange book discovered back in 1912 by a rare book stealer in an old Italian monastery. 240. That is the number of pages inside this 600-year-old book. And here's the kicker. Every single one of those 240 pages is filled with entirely unreadable text. I mean, to this day, even our most advanced AI and the world's absolute top cryptographers cannot break a single word of this code. No way.
And you know, the contents are even stranger than the code itself. The manuscript uses an entirely unknown alphabet and script. It's filled with these highly detailed botanical drawings of plants that literally do not exist anywhere on Earth. There are complex astrological diagrams showing stars and galaxies that medieval Europeans couldn't possibly have known about, and weird illustrations of women bathing in green liquids using what looks like some kind of unknown technology. So, what is it? Well, some experts theorize it was just a highly complex medieval medical guide, but others suggest it's a preserved record from a lost ancient civilization or maybe even an extraterrestrial message. It is a complete and utter puzzle.
Moving on to Chapter 2, Impossible Ancient Constructions.
Let's start down in Peru with the Nazca Lines. Now, what's really interesting here is the sheer impossible scale of the mystery. We are talking about over 300 massive geometrical shapes and animal figures carved directly into the desert floor. But they are so huge that they can only be recognized from the sky. Since the ancient Nazca people obviously didn't have airplanes, how on earth did they design them so perfectly from the ground? Theories are all over the place. Some say they were an astronomical calendar aligned with the stars, or ceremonial pathways for water rituals, or maybe an underground water map. And yes, some fringe theories even suggest they were built as alien landing marks. Regardless of which theory you look at, the execution is just mind-boggling.
Traveling from Peru over to Egypt, let's look at the Great Pyramid of Giza. We all know the pyramids are structural marvels, right? But in 2017, the Scan Pyramids mission used muon radiography, which is this incredibly advanced cosmic ray imaging technique, and they discovered something truly shocking. They detected a massive hidden void. Essentially, it's a sealed-off chamber, roughly the size of a commercial airplane, sitting right inside the 4,500-year-old Great Pyramid of Khufu. It is completely sealed, and nobody has physically entered it.
Which forces a massive, massive question. How did ancient people achieve this level of precision and scale without modern machines? It's wild. And it perfectly bridges the gap between the surgical precision of Egypt and the pure brute force mystery of our next stop, Easter Island.
Let this number sink in for a second. 80, as in 80 tons. That is the staggering weight of just a single one of the massive Moai statues found out on the tiny, isolated Easter Island in the Pacific Ocean. These colossal figures were carved out of solid stone and transported for miles across the island using nothing but primitive stone tools.
But the mystery is literally deeper than we originally thought. Modern excavations have actually revealed that these aren't just giant heads sitting on the grass. Hidden beneath the surface, the Moai possess full, massive torsos buried deep underground. Local legends claim the statues magically walked to their final destinations. And while modern archaeologists propose practical theories involving ropes and wooden logs, hands-on experiments today still struggle to replicate exactly how an ancient people successfully moved these massive, complete stone bodies.
Which brings us to Chapter 3, Clash of Science and Mystery.
So the crucial point here is how we interpret the unknown. Take the Bermuda Triangle, for example. We've seen massive, unexplained disappearances, like Flight 19 back in 1945, and the USS Cyclops, a giant Navy ship carrying over 300 people that just vanished without a single distress signal. We're left with a very strict divide in the theories. On one side, natural scientific explanations point to intense magnetic fields disrupting compasses, or maybe methane gas hydrates erupting from the ocean floor to suddenly sink ships. On the other side, fringe theories argue for underwater alien bases, or even the active, advanced technology of the lost city of Atlantis. Both sides are trying to make sense of the exact same missing data.
Another perfect example of this clash is the Shroud of Turin. It's an ancient cloth bearing the impossible, photographic-like imprint of a man. The image clearly shows wounds that match biblical descriptions of a first-century crucifixion. But then, in 1988, scientists ran carbon dating tests that suggested the cloth was actually only 700 years old, which seemingly debunked its authenticity. Jump to the modern day, however, and other scientists actively dispute that 1988 dating. They argue that pollution, fires, and ancient repairs completely skewed those results. Some experts even suggest the image was created by a supernatural radiation flash that just isn't naturally possible. So the debate between science and faith here remains entirely deadlocked.
All right, Chapter 4, Tech Ahead of Time.
We've reached the climax of our deep dive. 2000. That is the age in years of the Antikythera Mechanism. Now, at first glance, when Greek sponge divers discovered this in a Mediterranean shipwreck back in 1901, it just looked like a rusted, calcified lump of metal. But let me tell you, this 2,000-year-old artifact is anything but an ordinary piece of scrap.
And this brilliantly illustrates the impossible timeline we are dealing with. This object completely shatters our accepted timeline of human progress. It was created in the BCE era with a level of metallic precision that simply should not have existed. Fast forward from its discovery in 1901 to the modern era, where highly advanced 3D X-rays finally peered inside this rusted rock, and what did they find? 37 incredibly complex interlocking bronze gears.
What did those gears actually do? Well, this device was effectively the world's very first analog computer. It tracked the precise movements of the sun, the moon, and the planets. It could accurately predict solar and lunar eclipses, and it even calculated the exact dates of the ancient Olympic Games. To build this, someone in the ancient world needed highly advanced metallic tools and astronomical knowledge that, according to our history books, wouldn't be invented for another 1,000 years.
Let's move to our fifth and final chapter and see how this builds into the limits of our understanding.
All of this leads to a pretty terrifying implication. If this highly advanced technology existed 2,000 years ago, where did that ancient knowledge suddenly disappear to? It means that world-changing, brilliant human intellect isn't actually guaranteed to survive. It can simply vanish from human history, entirely wiped out and forgotten by time.
History is simply not as linear as we were taught in school. While we absolutely must always pursue empirical data, science has to remain incredibly humble in the face of these ancient enigmas. True intelligence lies in looking at an unreadable 600-year-old manuscript or a 2,000-year-old analog computer and just accepting the limits of what we currently know.
Which leaves us with one final thought to ponder today. As we continue to scan the pyramids, excavate buried statues, and map the ocean floor, what happens when we find the next impossible artifact? Are we ready to face the next great truth? Keep asking questions, keep challenging what you know, and I'll see you next time.